This is the highly anticipated and requested third part to the Let's Have a Talk trilogy, where I interview my father-in-law. In this final episode, we discuss having the talk, also the healing it takes to recover from having a miscarriage, also moving your family across several states, and the infamous and ever so popular daddy-daughter dates. So I hope you enjoy. And then that's when I go and ask Pop. I was like, hey, we need to have a talk. He like he said, he pretty much knew. So we get down in the basement. And I think the one thing that we was down there for about an hour, not that it was bad, it was great, right? In reflection, it was absolutely great. I couldn't have asked for a better conversation because it wasn't one of those scary moments. But the one thing I remember is he asked a lot of questions, one, but two, he made a statement. He said, "You are not ready." Now, he gave some context, right? He gave context, and we'll get into that. But that is what I remember, and he was so true. And I'm not talking to scare people, but marriage is a huge decision, right? It's life changing for two people. Two people. Tish and I were already. We were already Christians. We were already serving in the churches that we were a part of. We were actively pursuing a relationship with God. So that's where we start. Do the right thing. And I asked for her hand because that's how I was raised. That's what I know is right. As joking aside, let's walk through that from your standpoint.
I knew Kevin was a spiritual man. And by this point, I knew that he loved my daughter and that he would take care of my daughter. So when he was asking me, when he asked me that, I said, I don't know that I said that you are not ready. I said, do you really
That's right.
know what you're getting yourself into?
Yep, that's exactly what he said.
I knew my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
I knew she was strong-willed woman. She was independent, like I said. She's a very spiritual woman, so she knew what she was supposed to do as a wife. But I just told him, I said, buddy, you're gonna have to be strong. You cannot go into this without confidence in yourself, and that proved to be very important. So that's what I meant.
Right.
Nothing about him not being ready. I just want to know, are you ready for what you're going to get? Is what I meant.
And that is a solid question because in retrospect, I still had some growing to do, which we all are still growing. As long as we're breathing, we should be growing. As much as you think you're ready, there's still going to be curveballs. There's still going to be speed bumps. There's still going to be brick walls along your path. What he was doing was from the knowledge and the wisdom he had acquired along the way, was trying to prepare me to think moving forward on how to handle these things. I do remember it was a great conversation. There was seriousness, there was joking, and at the end of the day, he approved. He said yes. That same weekend is when I asked her to marry me. And it wasn't as romantic as a phone call about let's get married. But it was pretty close. It was a dark parking lot in a housing division close to midnight because everything I had wanted to do and had planned to do had fell throughout the night. It was like it was planned out, but it wasn't really. That's the way God wanted it. I dropped down to my knee and she said, "Oh my gosh." and I asked her, I said, "Tish, will you be my wife? Will you marry me?" And within seconds of her answering that she would, comes this minivan around the corner out of nowhere with my future mother-in-law hanging out the window with some flowers, and she just pulls up, hands Tish the flowers, and drives off. You could not have planned it better. It wasn't planned, but it was planned so good. That was July of 2007. We got married in November of 2007, and then we got to know each other for the next 5 years before we even entertained being parents. Unfortunately, our first pregnancy, it ended with a miscarriage. It was a very stressful time in my wife's life at that, because while she was pregnant is when she got notified Leland had passed away in his sleep, and so she was under a lot of stress. She had flown to Indy, and and I was still back in Jacksonville, and she called me and let me know what had happened. And I went to, at the time, my boss, and explained to him. I said, "Hey, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I need to take some days off. I got to get to Indianapolis." And he says, "Me and my wife want to get your ticket to Indy." And I was like, "What?" I can't comprehend that in the moment. I did, because I'm pretty sure I start crying. That was the experience with our first child. We healed from that. It was a few months down the road. Tish came to me and said, "I'm ready," you know. And so we started trying again. And almost instantly, there wasn't like a whole 2 years later, it was like 2 minutes later, I'm pregnant. That is when she became pregnant with Sasha. She is 7 months pregnant with our first, and she still has her six pack. And I wrote Sasha on the side of her belly with a Sharpie, but you can see her six pack still. To this day, the genetics are insane because it got passed along into my girls. First 3 years of Sasha's life, we lived in Jacksonville. We moved to Georgia for 2 years. During that time is when we had Kendra. She was born in Georgia, and she was less than a year when we moved to Indianapolis. We were told not to, but we did it anyway. And we get a call from Pop, and it seems pretty important. He wants to schedule a video call, and we're like, okay, well, maybe he's won the lottery and he wants to share his winnings.
We've already talked about her losing her baby, losing her brother. And whenever a couple has a loss like that, you go through tough periods of time. Me and my wife, we handled it well. We were together. We knew that we're gonna make it through this. Kevin and Tish did the same thing with the miscarriage. Now I find out that I have prostate cancer. And so I'm calling them to let them know. And the first thing Tish says is that we're moving. I said, no. You stay there, because we found it at an early stage. But no, we're moving. And again, that goes to her whole mindset. Something like that. No, I got to be home. And so she moves back to Indianapolis after all these years of being a long way away from home. Mm. I had two boys and a girl. So was I technically a girl dad? No. I was nothing like that. And then my daughter, being the way that she was, I don't know that I've seen her in nail polish. But what I'm saying is that, but the watching Kevin with Sasha and then Kendra, just how he was with my granddaughters, sometimes I think, would I have done that? Maybe not. But he's 6'5", he's a big man, and the type of man, he didn't care what anybody else thought. It was more important about what my granddaughters liked about him, what they thought about this. And I really, really admired that.
Well, thank you, Pop. It is. It's showing up to church in Florida with your toenails painted a different shade of pink and purple in flip-flops. Your daughter did it. You don't care what anybody else says. You just, she is impressed. She is head over heels in love with the fact that you did it. And that's all there is to it. And don't overcomplicate it. The choice to leave Georgia and move to Indy was very simple for me. As I'd lost my dad. Mm-hmm. And I told my wife, if there is a chance that I could have one day, I would do it with my dad. Mm-hmm. So we're moving, whether he wants us to or not. We are going, and we did. We sold what little things we had to sell. We saved what we could save, and we moved to Indy. It might not have been the best circumstances, but it's what needed to be done, and it's what my girls needed to see. I needed them to see what it was like with my wife to make a decision to go and do something that most people would consider drastic or extreme. We did it, and we ended up moving in with them. We was there during the treatment periods. We sat in through some of the doctor appointments and what they were sharing and what they were saying. But we were there through it all. During that time is when Zoe was born. A very weird time. It was in the middle of COVID. She was born in April. I about lost my junk when they told me I wasn't going to be in there for the birth of my daughter. I was like, well, you're going to have to send me to jail because I'm going to be there until they get me away, because I'd been there for the other ones. And I know that seems extreme, but that is how passionate I am about my daughter. I recall a story, and you can tell me your side of it, where Tish is playing basketball. Basketball was her sport. She's really good at it. Right now, she probably hasn't played in like 6 months, and I tower over her a foot. I guarantee she's going to beat me. There's been one time, and I think she was pregnant when I beat her. Playing for the University of Cincinnati, and she had a terrible attitude, and you were in the stands. So he recalls.
Respect for your elders, respect for those authority figures is big in my life. So I think this was her first year at University of Cincinnati, and so University of Cincinnati, that's a 2-hour drive. So all of the home games, we would be there, okay? And so this game in particular, there was something that happened out there, and I felt she was disrespectful to the official. And so during halftime, I walked down, and as she's walking through, I was telling her, I said, this is not acceptable. You've got to make this right. Well, her coach overheard me. And her coach tells me, Mr. Perry, we don't do that here. I'm the coach, and I would do that. I didn't like what she said, but I said, okay, all right, I need to back off. And so that's basically what happened.
But here's the takeaway from that. When Tish tells the story, it's not about what coach said. It's never been about what coach said. It was about you still being a girl dad, still being that parent, even what some would consider her being an adult. And she's 18, she's out of the house, she's living at college in a dorm, she's playing for a Division I basketball team that's really good. It's never done. Even now, and we're coming up on 16 years of marriage, and she's been out the house officially since she was 8. Even as empty nesters, y'all still are parents. It's just a different season, right? It's a different season. It's knowing your boundary. That for me is where I'm at now, because the same principle, the same method, I'll say, doesn't apply to each daughter. The same thing that will get Sasha to straighten up and listen has to be presented a different way to Kendra, and then even a different way to Zoe. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution. I feel through the research and through parenting and through experience and seeing others, all the stuff that is an accumulation of what I know as being a girl dad, which is very minimal in my opinion. As a girl dad, you want to be an example of the man you want your daughter to bring home. I have been referred to as this man so many times, both into technology. We're fascinated by it. We can geek out over some tech. Matter of fact, me and him have geeked out over technology. She had you as that example, and she found somebody pretty close without actually being you. You were an example of a godly man. You are the example of a long-lasting, loving your wife marriage. You are an example of a hardworking. You are all the things that's what she knew, right? And so I think that, as I'm going down this path, I just continue to try to be the best version of myself that I can be, because they're always watching. Matter of fact, just by me starting to do this podcast, they are so involved in it themselves. From even the 3-year-old, she can't even pronounce Girl Dad Chronicles, the Chronicles part. She said Girl Dad and it's Chronicles or whatever. It's so cute. But I'm just saying, she sees Daddy doing something and she wants to be a part of it.
Yeah.
My encouragement for is whatever it is that you're good at, don't exclude your kids. If you're a mechanic, then involve them in doing that. I hear stories of Tish wanting to work with you on soldering motherboards.
Yep.
But because her dad was doing it, automatically she wanted to be a part of it. Here's another example. Seeing them lead people in their home, whether it be through discipleship or Bible study or just marriage counseling.
Yes.
Being there and saying, hey, this is what you're doing. That's not good. Here's a better way.
I think of the times we would go to nursing homes and visit people. Tish loved it. Tish loved it. The boys did. Tish loved it. And we would see her have one of the people that we would visit in their wheelchair, and she's running them through the hallway, and they're laughing. They loved it. Miss Hauser is one that I remember up in Fort Wayne. But that's just how Tish is. The thing about Tish is that she also realized that I would piddle around. She said, "What you doing?" And I would explain to her, soldering parts on a motherboard. I had a bunch of parts that I take from maybe some of the x-ray equipment at work, and it was no good, but I would just practice soldering. So she would love to do that too.
How easy it is to gain affection from your daughter. For example, my two youngest girls talk about the daddy-daughter dates, right? And you're thinking, man, what daddy-daughter date? What do you want to do? They want to go to Sam's Club and Walmart. And that is their idea of a fun time. Now, believe me, that my Sasha is not the case. She wants to go to Claire's. She wants to get jewelry. She wants to get a new outfit. She's just the difference. That's the different season that she's in, the age that she's in. But the youngest two, it's as simple as going to Walmart, and even if I'm not buying anything for them, I'll go up and down every aisle. And they'll say, look at this, look at that, see this, Daddy, did you see that? And it's just that, for lack of better words, quality time, because they're excited and they're getting me to themselves, no one else. They got me all to themselves, and we have fun. Of course, as a dad, I am required by law to have fun at all times, and so I'll push the cart a little faster. Maybe I'll go down the back aisle of Sam's Club and get running really fast, and they are cackling, just laughing so hard. It's so simple. Oftentimes we overcomplicate what they want, and they just want you. That's all there is to it. They just want time with you.
Like what Kevin is saying, I was busy. There was a lot of people at the house, but the times with my kids is when you give them that time, you need to give them 100% of the time for a period of that time. If you're doing something, if you're watching TV and trying to talk to them, that's not going to cut it. You need to be able to look them in their eyes and listen to their words and respond to what they're thinking, because they really need that. Our middle child that we lost, Leland Lamar Perry, was our son. He was 35 years old when he passed away in his sleep. Well, he was the one of our three children that gave us the most trouble. Our oldest son, Dwayne Jr., he never got in trouble. Tish never got in trouble. And so what I realized that Tish developed was, over those years, is that she saw what her brother was doing and how much it hurt us and how much we were disappointed. And so she did not want to disappoint us in any way. So she tried really hard to please us. And then I also realized that I didn't want her to have that kind of pressure. I wanted her to Tish, you're going too far with this. Be yourself. Do what you want to do. Don't do what you think I want you to do. Do what you need to do.
Right.
And so that, I think, helped out a lot.
That is so good. Thanks for sharing that. I haven't made it quite to that point yet. There is been some moments where we have, we're just getting involved in sports because of their age. And so I imagine that talk will happen soon enough about, Don't do it because this is what you think I want you to do, but actually do what you want to do. Let them have the choice to do what they want to do, and don't force them to relive your youth, your dreams.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for joining us. Leave a comment and let us know what spoke to you, or even if you got something that we didn't talk about, because we could do this again. We'll see you next time, but most importantly, don't give up.
Yeah, keep trying.